Dan Willis here, and we're talking about the National Service Bureau, a third-party collection agency. Are you getting a flood of phone calls from National Service Bureau? How about letters demanding payment? Or maybe you've discovered a collection on your credit report. If so, you're in the right place. National Service Bureau is a large, independent, third-party debt collection agency. They're based in Seattle, Washington, and were founded in 1986. They service commercial debt along with the full spectrum of types of consumer debt, including financial services, medical bills, property management, student loans, retail accounts, telecom, utilities, and more. Our purpose here is to share how to deal with debt collectors, including your rights as a consumer granted by federal law, in addition to how to exercise your rights as a consumer and the due diligence steps that all individuals should perform on collection debt. The first item on our agenda is the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, Fdcpa. This is federal legislation passed by Congress with the intention of regulating the debt collection industry. In other words, it's the rules. The FDCPA clearly says what time of day debt collectors can contact you, what they can say, who they can talk to about your alleged debt, and much more. It's worth your detailed review at your convenience. Further, it requires debt collectors to be upfront, honest, and straightforward in their communications, along with requiring them to treat you with the respect and dignity every human being deserves. And yes, the FDCPA is violated just about as often as our drug laws. Now let's talk about, will Payne National Service Bureau collections improve your credit? For many folks, their main concern is, will Payne collections improve my credit score? Naturally, and you'd think so. It certainly makes sense if it did. But as of this video at the end of 2020 and moving forward, no, it won't. You see, the only thing that happens if you just pay collections and nothing more is a change in the status of that item on your credit report. It'll go from an unpaid collection to a paid collection. This is still a negative credit report item that'll likely damage and drag your credit score down. FICO, the company that calculates the overwhelming majority of consumer credit scores, says, and we quote, "The fact that you have collections listed on your credit report will almost certainly lower your FICO score." They go on to say, as far as your FICO score is concerned, two things are considered. Has a collection appeared on your credit report and when it was reported? So whether or not you pay your collections off is really a personal decision. And if you'd like to see this quote fully sourced and cited, we're going to include a link in the description below over to an article at our website. We have a free report available there for you, the 7 proven ways to boost your credit score. Now, the Experian Credit Bureau says in an article, and again we quote, "Consumers with collections on their credit reports are likely to have lower credit scores than consumers who have no collections. In addition to the potential impact to your credit scores, the presence of collections also can influence lender decisions." End quote. And the Equifax Credit Bureau says, and we quote again, "Collection accounts will remain on your Equifax credit report for up to 7 years, even if paid." End quote. If your objective is to raise your credit score, we need to remove this collection mark entirely from your credit reports, as if it never happened. And listen, your credit score is a lot like your grade point average, or GPA, in glory school days past. It doesn't matter if you're acing all your courses. If you're failing underwater basket weaving, that one negative mark is going to obliterate your overall GPA. This same principle applies to your credit score, and for most folks suffering from the expense of less than perfect credit, the cause for a low credit score is credit report dings, such as collections, late payments, charge-offs, etc. And contrary to popular belief, you're not stuck in bad credit prison for 7 long, expensive, and embarrassing years. More on that coming up, but if O.J. Simpson can get early release on a 33-year prison sentence, we're confident you can get early release from bad credit prison and without good behavior. And if you'd like some help, you can get a free credit report consultation by calling toll-free 1-844-517-7627. Some folks, after first performing the necessary due diligence, which we'll be covering in this video and the next one, so of course subscribe and join our congregation, they may decide the easiest, fastest, and most painless method forward is to pay this collection in order to get it off of their credit report, but more on that here coming up. So let's discuss the National Service Bureau collection tactics. What can they do? Besides the phone calls, the letters, and the collection on your credit report, the National Service Bureau is likely to inflate your total account balance. Legally, they can assess your debt, sky-high interest fees, and believe it or not, even collection fees. Depending on the size of your debt, these can be substantial amounts of money. As one of our members shared, on a student loan debt of about 50 grand, he was charged over 20 grand in interest fees and collection fees, given this was with a different collection agency. Nevertheless, if National Service Bureau is unable to collect payment, they generally have 2 options. First, they can sell the rights to your alleged debt to yet another debt collector. Now this new debt collector will begin contacting you, and they'll be reporting a collection on your credit reports. Alternatively, they can file a civil lawsuit, as in sue you. And we must warn you, the National Service Bureau has an in-house legal department, and it appears they often use this debt collection method. If this occurs, you should be notified of your court date via a summons. Please show up even if you have no defense. Their goal is to win a judgment, and if they do, then they've really got you by the short and curlies. Depending on your state of residence, a judgment can potentially result in wage garnishment, liens placed against you and or your property, and possibly even asset seizure. For full details, check out your local legislation, as every state has unique laws. Now let's discuss the due diligence steps for dealing with National Service Bureau. And the very first step is to request debt validation. This is your right as a consumer granted by the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. When you request debt validation, you're essentially saying to the National Service Bureau, you first prove it. After all, you didn't do any business directly with National Service Bureau. They just showed up one day demanding payment. This is how you ask for your original receipt. It's most effective to make your validation request in writing and send it using certified mail. This will give you a trail of evidence of your communications. You see, National Service Bureau is required to respond by providing you with the documents, paperwork, and evidence that does prove this is your account and everything's legit. This paperwork should show you all the relevant account information, such as who the original lender or creditor was, the dates of account activity, the total balance, etc. If they fail to validate your debt, then you're no longer responsible for payment. Moreover, they're supposed to contact all 3 credit bureaus to have them remove this collection from your credit report. And if you'd like some help, you can get a free credit report consultation by calling toll-free 1-844-517-7627. Now, the second step is the statute of limitations. If they do validate your debt, our next step is to review this paperwork in detail. We're looking for your last date of account activity, because you're not legally responsible forever for most types of consumer debt. Generally, you're only responsible for about 7 years from your last date of account activity, and this is according to state law called the Statute of Limitations. This law does vary by state, so for exact specifics, check out your local legislation. Once this legal time window runs out and expires, the debt is supposed to be forgiven. And this law applies to the vast majority of types of consumer debt, including credit cards, medical debt, charge-offs, utilities, telecommunications, property management, and many more. One of the only exceptions is federal student loans in default. Warning. Yes, a warning. The debt collection industry is notorious for re-aging consumer accounts, as this enables them to continue to attempt to collect payment despite the contract no longer remaining legally enforceable. And if you'd like some help, you can get a free credit report consultation by calling toll-free 1-844-517-7627. Again, that's for a free credit report consultation, and the toll-free phone number is 1-844-517-7627. This is Dan Willis. We're going to include a link in the description below over to an article at our website for the full story. We also have a free report available there for you, the 7 proven ways to boost your credit score. And of course, subscribe and join our congregation, because coming up next, we're going to talk about how to pay National Service Bureau collections and negotiate a settlement agreement, and so it will help and improve your credit score. So of course, subscribe. Have a wonderful day, and looking forward to talking to you again here soon.